I'm decluttering a lot of books on eBay. Been selling odd items, all of my sort of comic book related stuff. You can see all sort of like Dave McKean, brilliant artist. Pogo, brilliant, absolutely superb, but I'm selling them. However, I have noticed more and more when I revise or edit a listing, often the data that I actually get displayed is not valid anymore or it's lost information. Now, I don't think the listings are wrong. I think the listings are correct. You can see here, this one, Gospel of Loki. You can see here, Gospel of Loki, it's got a picture. But if I edit it, so I'm just going to click edit, and I do this quite often. I go and edit the price or something like that, or I think, but now you can see no photo at all. Now, when I create all of my listings, I always add 4 or 5 normally pictures showing the various corners of the book, the edges, etc., the cover and the back. Now, that's all gone here. So if I want to revise this, now what I need to do is go and take a load more photos or find obviously my set of photos that I had for that book and put them all back again. But why is eBay losing this data? And I've noticed this on lots of my listings. It's all ending up as stock items. Now, I don't know if you're seeing the same thing. Are you finding this as well? I find this very baffling. But there's also other things as well. Other things that's gone. Author, book title. I am quite certain this data was on that listing, but it's gone. So where has it gone? And if you can see all this original language, English, all these things would have been added when I added it, because I would have added it with the ISBN. And you've got this, very good. Now, it's got ISBN. But I've also noticed another thing on eBay of late, and that is the description. The description used to have a summary at the side. So you could click on it and it would display a publisher's description, and then you could copy it, and then you could just paste this in. And I'm certain that this is one I've done that way, because I wouldn't have written this. This doesn't sound like me. So I've pasted it from the publisher's description. It's not an AI one, it's too good. Because if I get rid of this, use AI description, it will generate something that's pretty awful, which is normally unique perspective, yes. Or it will say, the paperback book delves into every single AI one, always seems to have that. It builds it up, I think, from various information, humour, intrigue. It must be getting off the web somewhere, whatever, the source of information. But it's just odd, because sometimes it just makes it up from the title, and it's terrible often. And you can provide helpful feedback. I very rarely do, but I should perhaps click it and say, you know what, it's terrible. But that's a different point. However, it does keep the price. That's good. Be annoying if that forgot that as well. I've noticed more and more custom postage seems to be the default. I think that may be an issue with low price, because eBay's recently changed things. I think you will be able to use custom postage if you've got a low priced item. And most of my books are generally pretty low, £10 or £8. So they are valid for simple delivery. I'm not keen on simple delivery. I'm going to stick with it for now. Also, I've noticed quite often here is incorrect. Click here, recommended, at least it's correct, 45 by 35. Sometimes I click on that and it's recommended, it says a letter, which it's a book. It's not a letter, isn't going to work. Fits items like a sweater. How many sweaters can fit in a large letter? Really? Really? That is just odd. Now, okay, I'm not going to do anything there. I'm not going to update that. But sometimes it gets that data wrong as well. So you've got buyer pays. Sometimes I notice it defaults to seller pays, even though I've never set any of them to seller pays. Buyer pays. And does get this right most of the time, I'm quite certain. But I'm just going to cancel this, so I don't want to save it. I'm just going to come out of that. Just going to go back to the listing and show you one that's very weirdly in error. But again, the actual listing might be fine. So if I go through all these, you can see I've got lots of Marvel comic ones. This one, Siegel and Schuster, this funny man, brilliant, brilliant comic book. It's a reference book about comics. But if I edit that, And I'm quite certain that the listing actually is showing valid, but you can see it's got the photos. It doesn't lose every photo. So why? This is the sort of thing I normally do, some bit different angles, different things. But I've noticed more and more where the photos are just going. And it's got all this data. It's kept all that, which is great. Got all that, all the way down. And this, I assume, looks valid. Maybe, again, it's lost the summary bit at the side, but it looks valid. And then you've got buyable pay. But then you get this 1 kilogram, which I think probably is a 1 kilogram book. But why is it suggesting now 61 by 46 in that package size? Why has it done that? Now, if I click on this and save it, that's what it's going to use. And I don't want that. So I certainly don't want the recommended. The recommended is rubbish. No way is that. It's easily a 2 kilogram, especially when you add all the packaging. Put a lot of packaging on it, it's probably going to sit into the 2 kilogram category. Individually, maybe less than 1 kilogram, but could topple over into the 2 kilogram one. So it's the same price, of course, for the actual buyer. Okay, so again, go down here and then I can save it. Now, I'm quite certain that the value, the 61 it's showing, is not correct. It probably has got it as the proper value, but it's just odd that revising listings, you have to be very careful with the eBay things. And I could do this probably with many of these. If I just go through any of them, and especially some of the older ones, I've obviously added some new ones. So edit, this one's a very small one, the Archie book. And it's got the photos, really good. And another thing I've noticed also is that quite often when I go through these, I find that the pictures in this, if it has the pictures, it's reverted them back to the original angle. So if the original angle was upside down, and I don't know about this one, but this page or something like that, I've noticed many of them when you come into the actual revising, that it's the wrong way around, which is very odd. That's just because my camera, the way it records it, but I've changed it. I haven't left it that way. And so it's just odd. And again, you can see author, book title, missing again in this. Very strange. And again, it's got that looks probably correct, probably from the previous publisher listing. And again, you go down here, 1 kilogram, at least it's right. So it is right most of the time, but it seems odd and incorrect other times. Just very strange. So are you finding the same problems with your eBay listings when you actually come to revise them? Again, like I say, when you see the listings here, and I go down. Now, I've been going through this afternoon, flicking through all these various things, just checking various amounts, and I noticed some of the listings here, the postage, it was doing it the wrong way around. It was that the seller was actually going to be paying it. And I haven't set any of those to that. I've always gone with buyer, so I do not know why. Listings now, they're all corrected now. But earlier on during the day, I just found the odd listing that was just wrong, plain wrong. So I hope that when eBay updates these things, and I assume that this is when it gets relisted maybe, because of course you've got it's still got an option here of the days. So it hits a certain date, it will then reset it. So I do not know what's happening. I think they're all correct now. But you can see there's just a bit odd the way it's doing it. But are you encountering the same problem? Have you also found any other issues with editing on eBay? Have you found problems where it seems to lose the photos, where it seems to lose the author information, which is annoying because then you have to re-enter that to just continue, because you will not be able to finish off the edit until you've entered an author name, even if it's unknown or mixed, because quite often that is the case for many reference books. You've no idea who the author is. But that is my current thing with eBay. It's not much of a rant this time about eBay, and sales have been up and down, which is to be expected. I think you just have to accept that when you're putting stuff on. And as I'm not particularly rushing to sell, I'm not going to overly worry where I have periods where it goes down virtually to nothing, and then suddenly you get, which I've watched a really good video on this, and it was, I can't remember his name, but he's brilliant. I really, really enjoy his videos. He's a reseller on there, so obviously the information he says often doesn't particularly relate to what I'm doing, but I still find him very informative, very interesting, and he was talking about the patterns of sales. And I've noticed that as well. I've been looking at the listings, the sale figures, and looking at how they go dip down, and then you get sort of pulses of sales. You get 2 or 3 sales where you get suddenly a lot, and then you get nothing and it's just odd patterns. Now, I don't know if that's related to views, whether there's sort of like you get groupings or clusters of, or as he says, the spotlight, where the spotlight is suddenly put on your listings, whether that, and also impressions. I would love to see a sort of analysis of impressions. I don't know how you could do that. I don't know how anyone could particularly do it unless you could see behind the scenes, because that data, I don't think to that granular level you can see it. But it would be nice if there is a thing where you can see that your listings are not always being shown. Now, whenever I look for my listings, I can always find them. So I assume that they're always visible. But that doesn't mean that they do get that much visibility. And also, it's very strange how some items just seem to go on without selling forever. And then you edit them. And that's one of the things I often find. I revise the price or something, sometimes put the price up. I think, you know what, I put it down at £2 or something. I think that's a bit low. Something's like the poster book. I think this poster book is brilliant. Poster hardcover, filled with zillions and zillions of great pics. Other people are selling it probably for a lot more than that. So I think, you know what, I'll put it up to £5 or £6. Then, mysteriously, when you change the price, you get a sale. Maybe coincidence? Don't know. It's like Degas or anything. No, some of these books, of course, there's thousands of copies of these. It's very hard to shift a book unless you're lucky to get, obviously, someone looking for art books and they just happen to notice, I guess, and you get a couple of sales. Art books, I always find, probably the hardest one to ever see ever selling, even though I think some of these books are great. And also, this one, $3.99. I've seen this book at book fairs and things, and it's ridiculously expensive. But here, I can't even sell it at $3.99. And it makes me wonder, and that's another thing I always wonder with books and selling anything. How much is a thing really worth? It's only worth what anyone will pay for it. And you might have bought it for £15 or £20. And most of these books I've bought at a lot more than I'm selling them for. But you can't sell them. And they could sit on there forever. Even at £1 or £1.99, say. I mean, this sort of thing, Heritage Comic, they are just absolutely amazing books. Really great. Symbolist, brilliant book again, absolutely superb. And this sort of book, I just love those ones. Heinrich, I can't even say his name, Campendonk, Art's Handbook, absolute masterpiece. Been on there for quite a while, gets occasional views, but never seems to actually turn into anything more than just a few views. But you got others where you get no views at all. Symbolism, brilliant book. Symbolism, absolutely filled with some great pictures, absolutely superb. I don't think there's a vast amount of competition for it either. 0 views. I always find that slightly baffling, because surely throughout the entire world, someone must be looking for a book on symbolism. I would have thought Vincent van Gogh and others as well. But that's just my opinions on currently on editing on eBay. Please put your thoughts about whether you're seeing similar sort of things. And also, do you see, like this person pointed out, worth checking out his videos, please, I can't recall his name, but where he sees sort of groupings or clusters of sales. Are you noticing that as well? Where it seems to go for a period of slow sales and then suddenly perks up, then slow sales, perks up, slow sales, perks up. I've noticed that pattern quite a lot. Anyway, thoughts, questions, Like or dislike, always appreciated. Bye.